So that's enough of that. Cheap Gear Guy. We are this time reviewing the Line 6 pod. Not the HD, not the newest, the greatest. We're talking about the 1990s, the original pod. I actually recorded my first album with one of these, the rack mount version. And I fell in love with it back then and with amp modeling back then and the ability to dry track and long story. Anyways, I'm not going to go through all that. But yeah, I found this on sale pretty cheap, and I went ahead and picked it up because I loved it back then. Now, if I were tracking, actually using this to multi-track, I would have probably gone for number two, a Pod 2, but because it has the editor and all the software features and everything. The original Pod, it still has an editor, but it's an old school editor. They stopped supporting it with Windows, like either 98 or XP. I'll get into that later. Those of you who don't know, the Line 6 pod is a, let's take a quick look at it real quick. And there she blows. This is the Line 6 pod. Try and get it more centered. Okay, there we go. It's got a bunch of different amps, bunch of different speaker cabinets. It's an amplifier modeler. It says on here, Ultimate Guitar Direct Box. It has a feature where you can set it up to the right channel will have like the distorted and amplified, and the right channel will just be a direct dry track. So if you wanted to dry track in the studio, then you feed it back in for a loop, then you can change the amps after the fact, which is what I tend to do. When I bought this, I didn't need it for the sounds inside. I needed something that sounded good, that had good effects, that could, play some sounds, because I dry track, but it's a lot easier to get into the mode if you have actual sounds going in the background. I'm sorry for talking so much. I just kind of got to get through this before I start showing you what everything sounds like. So I'm, recording, dry tracking, and then what I do is I use this to give me an idea of what's going to sound like once I'm done, and then, that way I'm not just playing to, like, let me show you what it would sound like normally. Instead of hearing that, I hear. It's not a real song, just messing around. But anyways, so yeah, it's pretty cool. And that's all I use it for, so I didn't need the latest, greatest, and the best. Although, when I plugged it up, being so old, I was expecting a lot crappier sounds than it had. Right now, I'm set, as you can see, to the modern high gain, which is a Soldano. And then if you wanted a rectifier, well, that's too far, that's British. Rectifier. So that's the rectifier modeler. Then you got British high gain, which would be your JCM 800. I don't know if you can tell, but the drive isn't turned all the way up. I've got a lot more drive I can mess with. Then you get your Brit Classic, which is not the JCM, more like all the modelers call it a jump. Got a Brit Classic, which I'm thinking is supposed to be actually that was the Brit Classic right there. You got the brick class A, which is a Vox, and you know you can go. Probably should have tuned up. So while I'm saying that, why don't I go ahead and show you? It has a built-in tuner. I'm not as fond of the tuner in the pod as I am in Pod Farm, which I've come to really love inside of the PC. Once I dry track into the PC, I tend to use Pod Farm. Should have done this before I started recording. But, okay, anyways, now you see how the tuner works, and that's how easy. Alright, now we're going to go on to, this is the modern Class A, which I believe is still a Vox also. Anyways, it sounds like it might be time to intonate. I'm getting all these confused. Oh well. I'll just show you what some of the sounds are instead of trying to figure out what the names are from this angle. I think this is supposed to be the Fender dual reverb. Got tweed. Small tweed. Pod layer. Might be time to change those strings. So we're gonna swap out for the Nephilim, which probably also needs to be tuned up because I haven't. You know what? No, let's grab the Concord. It's got more of an LP kind of sound. Okay, so and then we got crunch. Clean. So like they all need to be tuned. So anyways, it's got a lot of really great effects on there too. As I said, I didn't get it for the actual sounds inside. I just needed something that I could get a rough idea of what I was tracking out, and it's got enough different amps inside that I can really guess what it's gonna, I mean, I got some vintage sounding amps, I've got some modern sounding amps, and then once it's all inside the dry tracked inside the computer, I can then go ahead and okay, once it's dry tracked inside the computer, I can change it through Amplitube and or line 6, whatever you use. So the last one would be the two, well actually there's two more, the tube preamp. I usually use the pod clean for when I'm bass tracking, so I have an amp, and then just crank the bass way up and the treble way down. It doesn't have any built-in bass amps. I don't really care. Again, I just want to have something I can listen to while I'm actually tracking. So. Back to the modern high gain, which is the Soldano. Now let's check out some of the delays. You got the effects tweak right here, so you can turn it up, so it can be. Probably clipped right there. Delay and flanger. And the good thing is there's two flangers, two choruses. You can't, I mean, at the actual pod, you can't tweak too much of the effects, but actually inside of the editor, you can. So there's, a lot of changes you can make. If you wanted to have the Soldano with the high Brit, let's say the Brit Classic, Brit High Gain, you want to change the amp and the speakers, you can do all that inside the editor. You just can't do that right here on the fly. And if you can, I haven't read the manual enough to do all that. It's probably something you can change with these buttons. I haven't really tweaked with the buttons too much. I've plugged it in and played it, and that's pretty much all I've needed to do. I don't do live performances or anything like that. If I were going to, I would have really read the instruction manual on how to get everything to sound exactly how I want it to sound. But I digress. Let's show a few more of the effects here. What we got? Delay chorus. And let's go with the compressor. So. Yeah, so please don't bias this by like my playing or my shitty intonation or my how I'm EQing this. The sounds are really good, and you can get the sound you're looking for out of it. So if you're having to be stumbling across one, and this is like from the '90s, and it's still kicking really strong. I have had no problems out of this thing, and it's old, and you can tell by the chip marks and stuff that this thing's been beat. When I got it, it came with the adapter, and let me grab this real quick and show you. The we got a line 6 bag that came. And it's got the little thing where you can put stuff in there, and there's got a place for you to put your, I don't know if this is even in the camera, where you can put your adapter up here, and then the bean pod actually goes down in here. Hopefully that came through. I don't know if it's probably just blacking out the screen. Sorry about that if that's the case. I'll show it again later. Well, I switched on something, didn't I? Okay, so, but it's got a really nice tremolo. Great feature. I'm sure you've been seeing this the whole time. Tap tempo. But it adjusts all the effects, the chorus and everything. So if you just need a little bit. And it's got a separate reverb knob right here. Probably should have warmed up too. Flanger. Flanger 2. Is really nice for so if you just want a plain delay. Turn the reverb down a bit. Bring the drive down. So yeah, it does a lot of really great stuff, and it's you can probably find one pretty cheap if you can find one at all. They're not really easy to find. I'm surprised I actually found an original pod, but I happened to be going to a pawn shop, and they had, I think we're about done over there, so we'll turn over here. They had a bass thing on the floor display, and I didn't need a bass one. I wanted a guitar one, but I was thinking about Pausins. I just needed noise, and I just happened to ask the cashier. I was like, "Hey man, do you have anything back there behind there? Zoom, Line 6, anything that would work?" And he goes to the back, and he comes out with that in the case and everything. And I slapped my money on the table and brought it home. Been happy ever since. I've had it for probably close to a year now, and I really dig it. I've got it going through my signal chain goes from my guitar to the Behringer Ultra Gain Mic 100, and I split it stereo. And one of the signals goes to the Line 6 pod, and the other signal goes to my mixing board, which then goes to my phonic, which dry tracks. And then I listen to this, I monitor it through the mixing board also, through the headphone jack. And that way I can listen to the track playing, I can listen to the amp, and I can get a good feel of what I want the sound to be. And then later on, I fine tune inside the amp with, inside the digital audio workstation with Amplitube or any of those other VSTI amplifier modelers. So is it a good buy? Yeah, it's a real good buy, and you're more than likely going to find it pretty cheap. As far as tracking out, I really don't know if you want to track out with it. I play out like performing gigs. I wouldn't mind. I would definitely want the at least the short board. They have a short board and a long board with the pedals. I have the FCB 1010, and I've got all the instructions for programming it. I've just been too lazy because I just run all the MIDI information into the computer, and then I assign the MIDI pedals to different stuff inside Amplitube. So I'm like, why bother wasting it trying to make it sound for pod? It's just not really worth it. But you can control your wah, you can control stomp boxes, you can turn stuff on and off really easy. And it's got all that information in the user manual, which is still online, amazingly. I found the editor through Line 6. This thing's so old that the Line 6 guy, I told him that, I've got the original pod, and he's like, yeah, no, you don't. It's a pod too. And I was like, no, I think it's original. And he's like, well, trust me. But it turns out I was right. And you have to, in order to get the original editor program to work, you have to go in, run as administrator, but you also have to go through the properties and set up the configuration. And this is just because I knew this, I'm kind of a techie guy. Set it for compatibility mode to run. I did it with, I think Windows 98. It might have been XP, but it fired right up. And then, using the MIDI connection, was able to program a couple sounds. But I never really even used those anyways because, like I said, I'm just tracking and I just need something to hear. So I'll just dial in, oh, I'm using a clean sound. I'll switch to the Fender. Oh, I'm using a kind of a heavier sound. So I'll switch to either the rectifier or the modern high gain. And whatever. So yeah, that's the review of the pod. If you have any questions, by all means, let me know. It does have MIDI in, MIDI out. It has dry track capabilities. It has a headphone jack as well as a left and right output. Inside the editor, you have a lot of more features, like the drive is not only a drive, but it's an on-off, so you can have like almost like a stomp box distortion. So I wish, and the pod 2 if you're looking for ease of play, go for a Pod 2, because that's going to be, it's going to have a lot more features right at your hands, able to tweak with, including changing the amps out and stuff and changing the speakers out. It's probably doable here, pushing the manual button and going through, but I just haven't read the manual enough to know how to do all that, and I don't really care because I don't need it. So sorry I can't be more helpful with, for that, setting you up on that. If you have any questions about it, I really couldn't help you other than to tell you to check the user manual, which is online. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Sorry for rambling on so much. I'm CheapGearGuy. I've got a couple more to do, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. And thank you for watching. CheapGearGuy. I'm out of here. Have a good one.